Hi, everyone. This is Leanne Jones from the STS. I have about 2 minutes after the hour, so we're going to go ahead and get started. It looks like our attendee tracker is starting to slow down just a little bit. Excuse me. We're going to go ahead and get started. Let's see here. Good afternoon. Happy Friday. We made it. Thank you, everyone, for joining our first congenital heart surgery database user group call. Just real quick, for those that may not be familiar with the user group calls, these are used as a forum where we can talk with one another to share our experiences and ideas on how to improve the platform. I know you all have been working within the platform for the first week now, so we want to hear how things are going with the transition from your perspective. And most importantly, the purpose of these calls is you have the opportunity to ask your questions with STS and IQVIA here on the line and get some immediate feedback. On the call today from the STS, we have myself, Leanne Jones, the database manager for the congenital, excuse me, congenital and general thoracic databases. We have Carol Crone, Senior Clinical Manager for the STS National Databases, Donna McDonald, Director of Quality, as well as Jane Hahn, Associate Director of Quality. We also have our IQVIA colleagues, Melanie Bent and her IQVIA team members on the call as well. I'm going to run through today's agenda. To start us off, I'll touch base on a couple of quick housekeeping items. We'll provide a quick STS update, and then we'll turn things over to Melanie to provide the IQVIA update, and then we'll finish off the call with the Q&A portion for you all to ask your questions. Just a friendly reminder to please submit any of your questions via the Q&A function. For the housekeeping items, just a reminder again that the June training manual was posted and is available out on the STS website. In regards to Appendix C, that is coming soon. I am doing a final review for posting, and we'll be working with marketing to get a blast email out and have this posted first thing next week. For the STS updates, again, I just wanted to share this slide from the last call from our monthly webinar for those that may not have been able to join. Again, these are the additional procedures, represent the list of new procedure codes that were added to the CHSD database in 2019 as part of the upgrade to version 3.4.1. Again, an updated stat score table will be provided, and these 9 new scores, procedures, and the scores will be added to that Appendix C and will be posted out on the website first thing next week. And again, an email will go out letting you know when this has been posted and it's available. Also, if you would like a copy of this slide right now to have for use, the webinar is currently posted. The monthly webinar is currently posted and it is available, so you can go ahead and download that slide deck and print out this particular slide or save it to your desktop or whatnot. So that is available for you to go ahead and access out on the STS website. Next, actually, I'm going to turn things over to Melanie so we can hop into our IQVIA update. Mel?
Thanks, Leanne. And good morning or good afternoon. Let's see how fast the morning has gone already for Friday. Let's go ahead and let's talk about the reported issues. I did raise this in the earlier webinar call this week, but I just wanted to, again, show this to everyone just in case if there was anyone that may have not been able to attend the previous session. But just to review, we are reviewing the following items, and we are looking at some of the items that are on a case-by-case basis. One of those is this first one, 3258, related to the variable that is listed here that within the DAT file, it looks like there's an invalid entry that was entered. And so we're looking to see if that is also consistent with another report that came in that is listed as being similar. And I think in these instances, we may have already updated those cases with comments. If not, I know that the team has identified the values and just need to communicate that back. Other items that are listed here are related to the missing variable report. So 3255, 3251, also 3225 and 3200 all relate to different variables on the missing variable report. So we're reviewing that and we'll be providing updates on those. In some instances that we're looking at, we are seeing just data values that may not have been updated with the DAT file. So again, some of these may be on a user or participant level reported issue, but we will give another update and follow up so everyone is aware in regards to if it is impacting all. Another one that is impacting all is related to the anesthesia. So that one I just want to raise, it's 3220. We do know the required fix for that. So we will be targeting that and we'll be advising on when that will be going out. So unfortunately, you will see those messages appear for anesthesia, specifically for the data version of 3.3. So just so that you're aware, we are working on that and it is an item that we are going to go ahead and get resolved. So that's the update regarding reported issues. Let's go ahead and move to the next slide. And also, we shared this earlier in the week in regards to items that will be coming. We have been asked to, of course, provide this information for you all, especially before the end or close of harvest, which again has not been communicated as yet. So in the meantime, I know that this has been a highly requested item and we are aware and we are working on that. So the case eligibility for inclusion in mortality analysis, that is a report that we're looking at, and then also the primary procedure determination. Even in the Q&A from this week, I was reviewing those, and those were the items that were, of course, the consistent ask. So we get it. Another future report, of course, this is after the harvest has been closed and after DCRI has completed their analysis on that data, will be the risk-adjusted dashboards. And those dashboards, once we receive the data back from DCRI, will be available within the platform as a new report. So again, this is future forward, but this again will be available within the IQVIA platform for you all to review once we get to that point. Okay, and of course, we will be providing any education and training around those new reports. So let's move to the next slide. So based on the questions that you all submitted this week, and they were great questions, so I wanted to just highlight a couple of those questions, and then we're going to go in and take a look and just do a demo. I think that that would help too, and I think we had a couple of people ask for that, so we will be doing that. And but I wanted to go over a couple of questions that seem to be a consistent theme, not only in the session, but also from our support team. These questions also are posed to them. So the first one in regards to the warnings that are appearing on the data quality report related to the demographic data version, having it being mismatched with the data version of the form. These messages are informational. It is just to notify you of this mismatch. This information actually was provided within the previous DQR, the PDF version of the DQR that you all used to receive from DCRI. That information was a section that was called Operation Records and Associated Demographic Record Data Version. So there was a section that advised you of this mismatch. Now, of course, it's more visible to you because it immediately appears as a warning, just to remind you. But again, just a warning, it's informational. If it is something that you're able to update within the software vendor system, then please contact your vendor if you're unfamiliar with, not familiar with how to do that update. But this is informational to let you know. The next question we got was related to viewing the database discharge mortalities and 30-day mortalities for each year within the IQVIA platform. Is that available? And that's yes. You can view mortality information within the CHSD participant dashboard, and we'll take a look at that. I'll navigate you to where you can find that information. It is in a sub-report that's called discharge readmission. Okay, so we'll take a look at that. I'll show you where you can find that, so you can go ahead and take a look if you have not done so already. Let's go to the next slide. Another question, in the previous DQR, we used to receive information regarding the primary procedure and that were entered for cases that did not match the data warehouse. Where can we see that information in the IQVIA platform? So that is one of the reports that I just gave an update on, and we are looking at being able to provide that information to you. So that's in the works. Okay, so just wanted to re-emphasize that. Another one is when reviewing errors and warnings, is the hyperlink supposed to take us to the data specific element with the problem? So when you're reviewing the DQR, there is an access case link that is listed, and that access case link does not navigate you directly to the data element, but there is a way, once you're on the case form, that will automatically take you to that either error or warning. So I'll go ahead and I'll do a demo to show you that. But basically you would use that My Task feature that's located on the right side of the case form. And I actually have a screenshot of it. I posed this question actually on another slide. I should have actually moved that. So Leanne, if we can move to the next slide, I have a screenshot with, here it is. So this is basically, once you're navigated and you're in the case form, there is a section that's called My Task. The way you would get to that is the clipboard. You'll see that there's a clipboard with a check. That clipboard actually will then display all of the associated errors and warnings that are on the case form. If you click on the actual errors or warning, so in this instance, of course, it's a screenshot, but I'll show you. If you click that, it will navigate you to that specific section, and you'll see how it's showing you status at 365. I clicked that and it brought me to that section. So that is how you would be able to navigate to the specific error or warning. Okay, so hopefully, again, when we do the demo, you'll get to see, and then that will help you out. This should be the last slide before going into the demo, so you can go ahead and let's confirm that. Click to the next slide for me. Yep. Now it's my time to take over. All right, just give me one moment and I'll share my screen. Let's go here. And Leanne, just give me a confirmation.
Yes, ma'am, we can see.
All right, perfect. Okay. So starting off with the DQR, let's go ahead and let's take a look at that. I've already loaded up a DQR. I'm going to take a look. I've been doing some testing, as you all can see. So I'm actually going to take a look at an entry that I did back in May, because it has some errors, it has some warnings. I'll also go over to the ones that have criticals, but I wanted to show you, especially with the navigation that I just talked about, I wanted to show you how that worked. So I already have my items selected and everything is populated down in the bottom section. What I would do, of course, to view that case form that has that warning is select the hyperlink. And once that loads, it will just bring you, of course, to the very first tab of the case form. And once the, let's get to the form loaded up here. I'm in my test environment, so it may be running a little bit slower than I anticipate, but here we go. All right, here we go. So this section here is what I'm referring to in regards to accessing the My Task section. So you'll see here is the icon that I talked about, my clipboard with a check. I'm just going to select that, and you'll see that I have a warning that's listed here. If there are any other errors or warnings, all of them would be listed here for me. And if I needed to navigate to that specific item for status at 365, I just selected that, and you'll see that it brings me to the section for that status at 365 after surgery. Okay, so that is where it's looking for a response. Okay, so that is the navigation using the My Task. Let me go back and let us also take a look at the demographic data version. Again, this is just informational. So also wanted to call that one out. So when you see that, basically you'll be able to view the information within that section. So let me just go ahead and select one of those items. Again, I have a lot of test data in here, and I was trying to set up different scenarios for us to review. So once this case form loads, we want to navigate to where that warning is. You'll also notice how it will highlight the actual tab label. Okay, so this is where the warning is currently. But then again, the other way that I showed you was using the My Task icon. And it will again show you all of the related warnings and errors. Select that, it navigates me to that section, and you'll see that this is where the focus is. Okay, that is the mismatch between demographic data version and the data version. Again, informational. Okay, I'm going to close that, and I will open up one more DQR. Let me see if I have with some errors, critical errors, which is the red circle with the white X. Okay. So I have, in this instance, I have a critical, an error, and warning that are listed. And I'm just going to select that pie graph so that I can get all of my items listed here. Or again, if I only want to look at my critical, I could go ahead and view that information here. So this is a scenario where I'm looking at a specific variable where I intended on triggering a critical. In this instance, this is the field that has the invalid entry that is not expected by the system. And in this instance, the record has been dropped with critical. I specifically put in a value that is not defined by the data spec. So for this field, I put in a value of 4. It only anticipates on receiving a value of 1 or 2. So in that instance, it will flag it, the record will be dropped, and basically it is verifying that any data that is not validated or does not match against the spec will not come into the database. So I would have to go in and correct those items. So that is an example of critical, because I think that was also a question that has come to the support team of why is the record being dropped? If that value coming in at the initial point coming through the door is not correct, we're not letting it in. So that will trigger a critical error. Okay. So
Melanie, can I just one thing to add? This is Jeanette from IQVIA.
Sure.
I just wanted to reassure the group that we do have the data that was migrated from DCRI. So if you are doing harvest submissions and it's for your older data set and you're getting critical errors on that, that doesn't necessarily mean that we don't have it, because we likely have it from the data migration. So while we encourage you to work through the critical errors and certainly to address those if possible, please do check your harvest summary report to see whether those records are already available because they were part of the data migration.
Good point. Very good point. So please be aware, and actually we got a couple questions in regards to a record count that they saw higher on the dashboard, but they were not taking in consideration that the migrated records were also included in those results for that report. So yes, please be aware that we do have the data that was migrated over from DCRI. Okay. let's go ahead and let's take a look at the operational reports. We got a lot of questions related to where can I find, for example, the harvest summary report. So other than at this point, the upload menu will of course get you to the upload interface, and that will allow you to, once the upload has been completed and is successful, you will receive a link on that upload card that says view report, and of course you can get to your data quality report. But for all other reports, you would navigate to the operational reports menu. Here you will find the missing variable report, the CHSD participant dashboard report, and this information that is displaying on this dashboard is non-analyzed. So this information, of course, has not been submitted to DCRI as yet. So this is going to be based on the information that you are currently uploading. So we'll take a look at that report in a few. And the new report, which is the harvest summary report. So you will find that under the STS reports. Okay, so that is all of the current reports that are available for you. So let's take a look at the first one, which is the missing variable report. And the first thing you will need to do is enter in a date range. So I think for this site that I have set up, I think I have 2018. Let me just double check because I bounce around in different environments. So let's take a look at 2018 through 2019. Okay, so I'll do that range. I'll apply the parameter and generate the report for that time frame. Okay, and so as I go through, you can see we will show the short name of the actual data variable, we'll show the long name, we'll show the percent missing, and then of course the number in regards to the total number that is missing versus the total number that's expecting a response for that variable. Okay, and the way that you would display the information or the cases that are related to that variable is to select that actual cell. And once you select that cell, you'll see that it populates the cases down in the bottom section of the report, and it will allow you to view those cases or navigate to those cases by using the hyperlink. Okay, and then you can actually take a look and see the actual response that is listed. And in this instance, majority of the time is that the response is not listed there, therefore being counted as missing. Let's also take a look at this side, the left side, where we have, of course, the filters. We have the ability to display, of course, by default, all of the variables. Then we also have a filter to display the mortality related variables. So you could use that to just focus on those. If you are participating in the anesthesia program and collecting anesthesia, you will be able to review just your anesthesia related variables. And then the very last option we have is the risk model variables. So once you select that, those variables that are missing will display and you could address those. Okay. You also have a filter where you're able to display cases that have been identified as either op type 1 and 2. If you wanted to only focus on those and not see any other op types, you do have another filter that is called other. And so this other option, if you did not want to see anything else while you're doing your analysis, you would just unselect that and it will only focus on the cases that are op type 1 and 2. But if you want to see all, you want to include all of the op types, then make sure that both are selected. By default, they do come in as selected. Okay, so that is the missing variable report. Let's go ahead and let's move over to the next. And that's going to be the dashboard. Let's take a look at specifically how do you, I'm going to go back to the question that was asked, how do I review my mortality variables? So let's go ahead and select a time frame. I'm going to do all procedures. and I'm going to do all age groups. And for this run, I want to take a look at only my index operations. So I'll go ahead and generate that. The other thing too, which I'll show you within this report, is another question that came up. How do I export this information? How do I get out the results that are showing up within the report? So I'll just walk through that also so you can see. All right, so you can see that my report has listed, and each one of these sections are individual reports. So data loads in each individual one of these reports. Okay, so just keep that in mind. It's not a single report, it's actually multiple reports that are being generated. So the section that we're interested in for mortality would be under the discharge readmission section. So once I select that, you'll see that you will have the information related to mortality status at hospital discharge, mortality status at database discharge, okay, operative mortality. Here you have that information, and here if you needed to see specifically mortality status at hospital discharge for those individuals that have been flagged as dead. For me, in my scenario here, my test data, I actually have 19 that have been identified as dead. And then you'll notice that I have missing, there are 2 that are showing up as missing here. So I can go ahead and take a look at that. Once I select the cell, populates my information down below, and here is where I can navigate to that case and I can review. The other thing that I wanted to point out in regards to getting the results that are listed in the report is you have the option to, and this is similar to the other reports, same thing in the DQR if you've been doing this within the DQR. If you right click, you'll get a menu which will give you the option to export. And that export is primarily, you'll see the options to PDF, image, but popular items or ones that are used, export table, if you're using a spreadsheet program that is not Microsoft Excel. So that's export table and export table without value formatting. If you are using Microsoft Excel, then you do see that there is an option here specifically for Microsoft Excel export. So let me just bring that up so you can see, because this next step, what I do recommend when you're doing this export is choose the option that says active page. And so all of that information in regards to what's listed, and that's only for the item, and I'm going to cancel there, only for the item results that I have highlighted. Okay. If you needed to see others and you wanted to capture, let's just say all of the information that's listed in here. Let me just see if I can highlight. You see all of these cells that I just selected are now highlighted, and the bottom section of this report, you'll see updates. And so all of those variables that are related to these counts are populated down below, and then you can do your export. Okay, so once you do that export, just as what I was showing you before, let's bring that up. Export to Microsoft Excel, active page, and then export. Okay, so that is, and again, similar feature functionality to export on the missing variable report, and again on the DQR. Let's go ahead and let's take a look at the very last report, which is the harvest summary report. The harvest summary report is going to allow you to see the active warnings and errors that are currently associated with the records based on the surgery date that you've entered in for the report. Okay, so that is the end result of what you will see on this report. This gives you a holistic view of where you are in regards to any kind of additional cleanup that maybe you did not address during your initial submission. When you reviewed that DQR, you're able to come in and select an entire time frame for the report to execute. The DQR is different because the DQR is only available per submission. So for that time frame, for that submission, that information would be generated on that report. Whereas on the harvest summary, you could go in and you can specify the time frame that you would like to review. So in this instance, I'm going to do 2018, and I will do 20 through 2019. Because I think I know I have data for that time frame. Okay, so you put in that time frame, you apply, and this will generate the errors and warnings associated to those records. And if there are no errors or warnings, then you will have another section that is called no validations outstanding. So basically it's shaded with green, basically good to go. Those records are good to go. You have the pie chart that will display for the warning, error, and for the no validations. You can do the same action of highlighting that pie chart, and you notice how it updates all of the cells that are related in that dark blue. So now that all of those cells are highlighted, you will then see those related errors and warnings down below. Okay, and you can do the same thing in regards to exporting and then reviewing and going through updating those cases. Okay, and then also that what I would like to point out is you are able to, again, you can filter your review to only look at cases that have been identified as operation type 1 and 2. But if you want to see all other op types, you do have that option also. But if you deselect that, it will update and it will only list those cases that are identified as op type 1 and 2. All right. So I'm going to stop here. I think we covered the high-level questions that we have been receiving. Hopefully this answers some of those questions and gives a little bit more clarity. But now I think I will stop my sharing here so that we have time to at least get questions. Yeah.
I don't know, while you were in your environment, somebody had asked if you could just show how to get to the DQR real quick, or just show the DQR.
Yeah, definitely. Hold on. Let me go back.
Yep, sorry. I wanted to try and catch you before you got out of the environment. So.
That's okay. I'm still there, and we will just navigate right to it. Okay. So I am under the upload menu, and that is the initial menu that you will see when you log into the application. And so you'll see that I have multiple entries that have been submitted. A couple that I have, of course, failed because I had a mismatch on my participant ID in the file that I was using. So that's what's happening there. But then if you take a look, there is a view reports link. This link is going to appear for every submission. And so this is how you access your DQR. You would select that link for that submission, and it's going to open up in a separate tab. And once you're in that tab and it's loaded, this is where you would, of course, review the submission related errors, warnings, or criticals if you encountered. Okay, and let me just highlight that so you can see by taking the action of left clicking and holding your mouse. That's all I did. And then I just drew a box over this pie graph. Let go. And then it, of course, populated the alerts by uploaded records. And then by default, when this is selected, it will then update the bottom portion, which is the records level validation, updates that. Also know that over time, if you are submitting the same records, you will start to see a default system message that's related to the record being a duplicate. We did add an actual filter in here to allow you to remove those duplicate records out of the results. And so if you deselect duplicate, it basically will hide those messages for you, so you no longer have to see those. That was another feedback point to say that, you know, of course, when exporting, having all of those messages appear just really cluttered up, you know, the review. So that's how you get to the DQR, and that is primarily the information that you will be able to review there. Anything else before I stop sharing? Because maybe I can stay here and
yeah, I don't see anything right now. So
okay, so
we're good.
go back through the presentation and then Q&A.
And we'll start. Yep, we'll hit it. All right, great. All right, let me share my screen. And if you could let me know if you see the...
I see it.
All right, perfect. All right, thank you so much, Melanie. That was awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Let's see here. All right, next we're just going to move on real quick, just quickly cover the support plan. You all have seen this before. It's posted out on the STS website. Again, here is the contact information for IQVIA support. You have the phone as well as the email. And once you contact IQVIA, you'll be connected with Tier 1 support. Tier 1 support will be able to assist you with getting the ticket number assigned or be able to assist with any types of login issues, username, password issues, that type. If Tier 1 is unable to answer your questions, then a ticket will be submitted and you'll be routed to either Tier 2 support for a response, and then to Tier 2 will follow up with you directly, or depending upon your question, you'd be routed to STS. STS, we would respond to your question as needed, or we would work with DCRI if your questions involved analysis. In turn, Tier 2 would also work with any database vendors if need be. For questions, Tier 2 would work with any vendors and get back accordingly. So next we have our resources. Again, you all have seen this information as well. We have our STS National Database webpage for resources. Again, we have the STS tech support at IQVIA. We also have the STS National Database feedback form for you to please send us comments, suggestions, thoughts, likes, dislikes. We encourage feedback from you guys so we can help to make this platform everything you want and need it to be. We're here to listen. So again, please provide us any feedback. We welcome all feedback. Also out on the STS National Database webpage, you can find your resources for, again, contact information, webinar information, upcoming webinars, past webinars. All of our past webinars are posted. Recordings are posted out on the website. There is links to all of those webinars. FAQ document is also out there. The FAQ, webinar information, go live checklist, tiered level support, all of this information can be found under the STS database transition resources page. Also training videos out there as well. Next, again, my slide with my contact information. You guys, please feel free to contact me anytime with any questions. My email address is here, as well as my direct phone. It's 312-202-5822. Please do not hesitate to reach out to me at any time for anything. I'm happy to assist in any way. If you have any database operational questions regarding access to the platform, your current contacts at your site, you need to update contacts, you have any questions regarding participation agreements, please reach out to us at stsdb@sts.org. Before we jump into the Q&A, our next webinars, just mark your calendars. Our next user group call is scheduled for July 10th at 11 a.m. Central, and our next monthly webinar is scheduled for July 17th at 12 noon Central. So be sure to mark your calendars for those. And the user group calls, if you want to go ahead and plan accordingly, we're going to have those every Friday at 11 a.m. Central. So we won't have one next week due to the July 4th holiday, but our next one will pick up again on Friday, July 10th at 11 a.m. Central Time. All right, next we are going to turn things over to you guys. Obviously we've got several questions in the Q&A. We'll get through as many questions as we can. Please submit your questions via the Q&A function. So if no one has anything else they'd like to add, we can go ahead and start tackling questions. All righty. Mel, you guys, your team ready?
We're ready.
Alrighty. Our first question, when we receive the STS benchmarking report, is it possible to also receive the list of cases for Table 1 and 16 so that we don't have to request it every time? I can go ahead and take this one. When the risk-adjusted reports do come back, there will be the ability to drill down to see what patients were included in Table 1 and Table 16. So you would no longer need to submit a minor request to get that information. I know that's what you all, Vera, that's what you all have done in the past, but with the new dashboard and the functionality, you will be able to drill down to see what patients were included in Table 1 and Table 16. I don't know if Jeanette or Melanie, if you all have anything to add to that.
No, I don't have anything. That's
All right.
basically the option. They'll
Okay.
be drill down.
Yep, that is the plan.
Perfect. That's going to be awesome. All right, our next question. If we have a critical error for 3258 anti-fib I'm not going to read all that.
Yeah,
Excentrate.
I was thinking that too.
Yeah, that's a lot of short terms. Will we re-upload these, or will it be corrected on the IQVIA side?
So in this specific instance with this variable, what's being passed from your actual vendor file is what we have to research. And that per the data spec is a range that's expected. So the value would be, I think the low value is 0.0 and high value is 25.0. So we need to take a look at which record is throwing the critical error in your file, and be able to let you know if that value is outside of that range, or meaning that it's lower. Maybe if it's a negative number, then I'm just putting this as an example. I'm not sure of what's happening in the file, or it's higher than the expected high range that's listed by the data spec, then this potentially is triggering the critical error. And so that is, and the record is not, until that's corrected, the record would not be accepted in. So we need to take a look at this specific example with you, with your file, to determine what's happening. After that's corrected, if that is the case, then you would have to re-upload that record, and then the system will accept it.
All right, thank you, Melanie. Our next question, will future risk-adjusted reports be live as data as entered, or be static from the last 4 years of data?
So for this is Melanie again, for the risk-adjusted reports that are coming in, because we do, the analysis is done on that data by DCRI and will be sent back, it is not going to be live updates like if you start uploading again. That information is for that 4-year time frame that was analyzed, it's static. So just hope that answers the question, but yeah, that is not going to be an updated value as you are continuing to upload.
And just one thing to add, this is Jeanette. That also means that the option to opt out of a harvest analysis will still remain available. If this was being run all the time, then there would be some complexities in retaining the opt-out option. So opting out of a harvest is still available to you.
Thanks, Jeanette. Good point.
Great. Thank you, Jeanette. Thanks, Melanie. All right, our next question, I think this is just a statement or comment from Heather. In beta testing, okay, you say she's issued a ticket there, so regarding missing MT365 stat in the MBR.
Okay, Heather,
Not showing in production. Okay.
If you can put your ticket number, Heather, if you can put that in the chat, and we can have our support. We do have support team members that are also listening in, and so we can get that on the radar and get someone to respond back to you.
Great, thank you. Thank you, Heather. So Kelly's asking, so the case form is essentially a worksheet for their use.
It's a read-only, so let's clear, because I think someone else asked the question a little bit further down. So the case form is basically, I guess if you want to call it a worksheet, but it's the actual patient record, the form that you populated. We're giving you a view within the IQVIA platform, and it's read-only. You are not able to make changes to that record. Again, all changes that you would need to do would still happen in your software vendor system. So if you realize that there's information that needs to be updated, you would do that in your source vendor system, and then export that file with those corrections, and then re-upload to the IQVIA platform.
Perfect. All right. Our next question, if we use IQVIA as direct as data entry point, does that information flow back to the vendor data metrics or back to the vendor source?
So I get it's going back to what I was just stating. So if you decide to transition to IQVIA as being your vendor, there would be no connection back to another vendor. Your source would be IQVIA. So again, with any changes that you would need to do after reviewing that within the IQVIA platform, you would need to go back to your software vendor system, make those updates, and then re-export and do the same process again, upload again to make the corrections.
All right, perfect. Our next question, so this is from a call that the 365 should not be included at this time because it is not relevant for the current submission. It started 1/1/20 only. So this is, I think, in regards to the warning for the missing 365 status. Melanie?
Okay. But so
yeah,
are we saying that, and we would need guidance from STS, are we saying that this warning should not even be available?
Well, I think that's something we can take offline and discuss because this is variable. This is a new variable for that started January 1, 2019. So they wouldn't have any status for 365 until January 1 of 20. So I think that's something that we could take offline and talk about and see how we're reporting that missing. So thank you, McCall, for that. So we'll discuss that internally. Our next question, I am receiving critical errors for anesthesia data only. Does this mean the entire record will be rejected or just the anesthesia data?
The entire record, Kelly. The entire record. So, and it's explicit in the message to let you know that the record would be dropped. So it's not just going to be, when we are pulling in that data, the entire record is the case form or the patient record. So until those are reviewed in regards to updates that may be needed, those records would be flagged as critical.
Thank you. And question from Carrie, and then IQVIA, if we enter 30 days equals unknown, that equals the removal of the patient and the mortality metric. So it's handled the same way the DCRI is doing the analysis. The 30-day status of unknown is treated as missing data in analysis. And I hope that answers your question, Carrie.
Yeah, and that's how we treat it.
Yep. Our next question, if you clean up a few items from a previous upload and re-upload the entire data set, will it show you any existing errors and warnings, or will it only show you new?
It will show you the new. Now, depending on if you're encountering criticals will always persist. Those will always come back. But and of course, it's going to show you errors and warnings that are related to any updated files. And then if by chance you added any new records, those also would be listed and available within the DQR. Any records that have been identified as found in the database and there are no changes, the validation warnings will not, warnings or errors will not trigger. The way that you would be able to, of course, see all of the current errors and warnings would be to use the harvest summary report. You put that date range in for surgery date range in, and you're able to see everything that is currently available on those records.
Perfect. Thank you, Melanie. Our next question from Kelly, is there a report where I can get a count by op type, surgeon, anesthesiologist?
Not at this time. We actually, this came up on the last call also, so we are reviewing this information, but not at this time.
Right. Now they can see op type. If they go into the dashboard. Yeah. So, yeah, absolutely.
Let's do it because we did talk about that yesterday. You're absolutely right. Give me one moment. Let's go ahead and pull that up. While you're doing that, because I know I'm going to be mindful of time, if you want to go to the next question.
Sure. And Nancy has I don't see operation type 1 and 2 displayed. It is only showing other op type. I think you were talking about in the filters and the drop down, Nancy. If you could, Yeah, you should
Just clarify
be
that,
seeing
Nancy.
Yeah, just clarify. Our next question, is there a way to see the percent missing of data case eligibility for inclusion as in the past DQRs? This report is a work in progress. IQVIA is working on this, and the plan is to have this report available as well as the primary procedure determination available to you, to participants prior to, the close of the harvest. So that is a work in progress. It is being worked on as we speak, Beth.
Okay.
Um,
And I have the report up, so I'll just quickly share so everyone can see.
Sure. Yep,
Okay.
go ahead.
And let me know when you can see. I have the dashboard up.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so once you're in the dashboard, you would go to the operative report, and you'll see that there is a section for operation type, and you're able to see those total counts based on, of course, the surgery date range that you entered, but you are able to see those counts here. So let me just scroll up just a little bit so you can get to see the list. Okay.
That's
and then
perfect.
Of course, if you select for CPB cardiovascular, select that cell with the results, and you will get all of those cases listed down below.
Perfect.
Okay.
Thank you, Melanie. All right. Okay. Janet, it appears that if you put a whole number, it works, but the tenths don't. Hold on, I'm trying to figure out what the question is. Heidi, my value is 1.5, an acceptable value for current question of 3258. Okay.
We would just need to
It's
look to
looking
see
like
what's happening within that file again, Heidi. So let's go ahead, and I think you may already have a ticket with support. If not, please reach out to them, but we will definitely take a look to see what's occurring.
Yep. And Heather, you have not received a ticket number yet. If you could follow up with contact support and ask that they create a ticket for you, then you should be issued it's an RIT number, correct, Melanie?
Yes, it is.
Ask them to assign a ticket number for you for that particular issue you were having earlier, and then share that with us. Our next question, I'm having a similar issue to the auto transfusion showing up as a missing variable for blood transfusion after 24 hours. I'm receiving over 400 records that the still is missing and is not submitted a service request and was contacted. Okay, here we go. Ticket number, Autumn put her ticket number in here. Melanie, if someone from support can follow up with her.
Follow up on that item. We will follow up. But yeah, that one is one of the ones that we do have as an item that's listed as a reported issue. So we do have this on the list. So we will be getting back in touch for anyone that called regarding that item.
Excellent. Thank you. All righty. Our next question from Peter, only critical errors would cause a record to be dropped, correct?
That is correct, Peter.
Correct. On the dashboard report, when we filter by index procedures, it is showing donor procurements as index procedures. Like you hit. All right. So that's something we can look into. Kelly, we'll take that offline and we'll look into that. So we'll make note. Yeah,
but let's go ahead and also get a ticket in to support so we can get that tracked. Yep. So Kelly, if you haven't already contacted our support team, please do, and we can get that on the list to make sure that it's reviewed.
Perfect. All right. I've used the reports, queries, and cleanup functions in my source software prior to uploading a file. That has been very helpful in catching would-be critical errors prior to upload. Just a suggestion. Thank you, Becky. That is a great suggestion. We do encourage, participants to do your internal cleanup and validations prior to submission. It can, save you a lot of time during the harvest submission process. But yes, we highly encourage you to please do your internal validations prior to submissions. And you can work with your vendors to create validation reports internally. So highly suggest that you all work with your vendors to work on that. Our next question, my site enters anesthesia data into our vendor software for all cases. However, we do not yet have a anesthesia contract, and there is not a plan to sign an anesthesia contract. Will my records come back with critical errors and not be accepted?
So your data will be accepted into the database. You will receive, of course, anything coming through the door will automatically be validated. So if you're in the process right now of signing the contract with STS, we're still allowing the data to come in. You may receive validation messages just depending on what's being sent in the data set. So just to put that out there, because it will be validated. But if you have not signed the agreement as yet, and you're looking at your missing variable report, for example, where we have an anesthesia filter, that actually will not, the anesthesia variables will not appear for you until you have been officially signed up with STS for that program. Same in regards to when it's time for us to submit the data to DCRI. If you have not formally signed that contract with STS, we will not be sending anesthesia data over to DCRI for them to conduct analysis. So just wanted to clarify what will happen. Even though the data will be there, depending on where you are in that contracting phase, we will basically have triggers in place, validations in place, that when it's time to send the data, that data would not be sent. But when you do sign the contract, we have the data in place. You wouldn't have to re-upload those files. Okay, so you would be ready to go at that point. Hopefully that clears up that question.
Okay. Perfect. Thank you, Melanie.
Welcome.
Let's see here. Next, only other is showing up in other operation type and missing variable summary. Does that mean my
filters? So
type
she is referring.
Yeah.
So the filters are also dynamic, meaning that if there are cases that you are looking at within that time frame and they are not actually flagged or indicated in the form as being an op type 1 or 2, the filter will not appear. So if there are no cases for the time frame that you're looking at that do not satisfy that criteria, the filter will disappear. You will only have other, because that the op type other than 1 and 2 have been identified. So you will only see the filter for that. That's what it sounds like is happening. Nancy, if you think that there is something still not right in regards to the filter not appearing, please contact our support team so we can take a look further. But that's the general functionality of how that works.
Okay, thank you, Melanie. Our next question, we had a file inadvertently uploaded that is from 2020, and I wondered, will this be an issue when it's time for harvest, as it doesn't fit into the time period? She was wondering if they needed to have that removed, but
no,
yeah,
it would not. It would not impact you when it's time for us to basically package up the data to send over to DCRI. We put in checks to determine the harvest time frame, and we only submit that time frame. So it is fine that you went ahead and submitted 2020. If it does not belong within the harvest time frame, those would be excluded. It would not be included with what we send to DCRI.
All right. All right, we have one more question. Is it possible to get missing warning and process measures for index surgery, CPB, no CPB only? I think we are required to complete it only for those cases. Thanks.
I think I covered the filter. There's a filter that I showed in the missing variable report. If you don't want to see cases that are not related to 1 and 2, there is an other option. You would just deselect that, and it will only show you the result for op type 1 and 2. hopefully that answered the question. But you do have filtering capability to see those cases only.
Mm-hmm. Right. All right. We are just over time. I do not see any additional questions coming in. So if we do not have any additional questions, does anyone have anything they'd like to add, anything that I may have missed before we end today's session?
This is Jeanette. I just wanted to reiterate, and I know we mentioned this in the last webinar, but for those of you that weren't on that call, we really appreciate the input that the beta tester community provided as we worked towards this launch. So we're really happy that we were able to incorporate so much of their feedback and suggestions, and we definitely appreciate hearing from you and understanding the feedback and concerns that you have. So thank you all.
Yep.
And
I echo that
absolutely.
same
Thank you
sentiment.
all.
Yep, echo that same sentiment. And just for all of you who have been submitting data and working through, taking a look at the data, you know, this is a really big accomplishment. So, you know, we definitely applaud you all for taking that, you know, moving forward in this launch. So great job.
Yes, thank you, everyone. Thank you. Thank you, STS staff, IQVIA team. We appreciate it. Thank you guys for joining me today and for your support. I don't have any other questions, so I hope you all have a great weekend, and we will
just one more
if you have
question came in about closing
sorry.
harvest date. Thought you might want to mention that one.
Okay, sorry, I did not see that. So yes, so STS has not yet decided on a harvest close date. We want to allow the users to have time to get used to the platform, to get used to the dashboard, get used to harvest submissions, get used to the data quality report, the MVR, just to get used to the function and start to feel comfortable. Please know that we will give you at least 4 weeks notice prior to the harvest close. So as soon as we're going to let the harvest continue for a while, for a few weeks before we make that decision. So once we do have a decision, we will give you guys at least 4 weeks notice. And again, we do plan to have that case eligibility for inclusion and analysis, as well as that primary procedure determination report available for you guys prior to harvest. We know those are very valuable and very important resources for you all. So we are working to have those available to you prior to the close of the harvest. But again, we will give you a heads up, at least 4 weeks notice prior to the close of the harvest. So we will pass along that information as soon as we have that coming up. Okay. Thank you, Jeanette, for pointing that out. I didn't see that question, so I appreciate it.
No problem. Thank you. Thank you all.
All right, everyone. Thank you, everyone. Y'all have a great weekend, and we'll chat with you on our next call.
Thank you, Leanne. Thanks, Melanie. Thanks, Jeanette. You guys did an awesome job.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a great weekend.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye.